Good morning. Well, it's still morning for me because I'm in California. So good morning wherever you are, whatever time of day it is. Happy Sunday. I'm so glad to be here. And I'm so glad that you are here too. So I am in California, for those of you that might not already know that. And it's been quite a journey already. I will share just briefly, but then I'll write about it later and post on my page of all the amazing things that have already happened in such a short window of time of already being here. And those things that have happened that for me confirm, oh yeah, I am exactly where I'm supposed to be at this moment in time. Flying in, I was seated next to a woman on the airplane. This stands out to me the most. Before I left, I had a vision that I was going to spend some time talking to someone on one of the legs. I had a layover, and share some part of my story with her. And I didn't know much more than that, but I knew that much. I felt that much. And so sure enough, the first leg went by, nothing. The person next to me was like not interested in talking whatsoever. Totally fine. And then the second leg, I almost missed my flight, because the first flight was late and so forth. And so I got to the second flight and I sat down and the woman next to me really didn't seem interested in talking. And so I went about my business and I started reading a book that my dad just gave me, which I'm sure I will share about badass habits, changing badass habits, having badass habits. Anyway. And so I become aware that this woman is crying next to me. It took me a while. I was just really into my book and not paying attention to her. But then I became aware that she was crying. And I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you, God, for letting me know exactly. I'm right where I'm exactly supposed to be right now. Because I get to offer this woman some comfort. I get to share some part of my story and who I am right now, today, with this woman. And so I waited patiently for my moment, as I call it, my window of opportunity, to be able to turn to her and say, I see you. I see you, and I just want you to know I'm here if you want to talk about it. Naturally, as I think anyone in that situation would respond initially, she was like, what? Sort of like, I didn't really hear what you just said to me, or what you said to me is so unusual. Could you repeat that? And so I repeated, in short, and we ended up having a lovely conversation, and we shared an intimate moment of being human, of being honest, of being what I would say the true sense of who we are, right? Where we're both expressing the vulnerable, deep parts of ourselves, that divine part of ourselves that so wants to be seen, and that human part of us that's feeling so deeply the fears and the challenges that life presents. And so it's a beautiful moment. So I wanted to share, in addition to that beautiful story that brings emotion to my eyes, I wanted to share a little bit about what I've been thinking about lately, because I know that it will help you and inspire you in your own journey. And that is the whole reason I show up here. I want to talk to you a little bit today about taking the mask off that you don't know you're wearing. So I think most humans know they wear masks, right? I definitely was aware that I wore a mask of some sort, but I didn't know that I was wearing a mask that I didn't know I was wearing. So just sort of take that in as much as you can, right? It's a concept I've been thinking and studying for probably 20 years. So just take it in wherever you are, wherever you're at in this journey, and just hear it for what it is to your ears this morning. You wear a mask that you don't know you're wearing. And so the message that I have for you today is applicable both to the mask that you're wearing that you do know you're wearing, but I also want to speak to this other part of you, this more divine part of you that has an awareness that you're wearing a mask that you don't know you're wearing. And the mask that you don't know you're wearing is actually the mask that's keeping you from the freedom you crave. I keep looking off to my side here because the harbor is right in front of me, and so it's this beautiful scenery that I love to be able to be inspired by as I share with you. Just so you have context, I'll post a picture of it later. There's all these beautiful sailboats out there. So it's this mask that we're wearing, that we don't know that we're wearing, that literally is the thing keeping us from the freedom we so desperately want. And some of you don't even know you want it, right? You have a sense of it, and you have a sense of wanting something, but you don't even really know what it is that you want. I am still surprised at how many adults I speak to who really don't know what they want. And I get to talk to people all the time, right? I mean, just in the trip to California, I've literally talked to probably 8 people already with that serious, intimate exchange of what do you want, right? And a lot of people just really don't know what they want. And this is what I would say even more detailed is to say, and more accurately is, they're not tapped into what they really want. Or they're in a form of like denial that there is something there that they really want. And so they just answer something like, oh, I'm not really sure. Or, oh, I'd have to really think about that. Or, well, I, want what everybody wants. I want love. I want this. I want travel, money. But to really be tapped in, right, to the like uniqueness that is only you. You're the only one on the planet who has that level of uniqueness and desire of the thing that's your vision, your desire, your thing that you really want. And I just use that phrase for now because it's literally been with me for the whole 4 years I've been doing my own thing here, life coaching that I call it, sort of helping people become the best versions of themselves and ultimately have the most freedom, right? To help people live liberated lives. So your freedom, your passion, your excitement, your, ooh, I love being alive thing is on the other side of that mask you don't know you're wearing. And just for a moment, I want to share a little bit about, as humans, we operate off of patterns. And I talk about it in a few different ways, but I think one of the most helpful ways and just easy ways to think about it is that humans operate by patterns. It's the way the brain operates. And you can think about it like a computer. I've heard that many times over as well, that the brain is like an operating system. And you type in, code, all these series of numbers that to the human eye that is not familiar with coding, I have no idea what they mean. But it's very similar with the brain and the way we operate as humans. And I have been fascinated with the human brain and the psychology of human behavior and how we operate forever. Like literally I can remember back to 8, 9, and 10 being so intrigued. So we operate off of patterns and we repeat patterns over and over and over and over everywhere. It's how we operate until we decide, until we first become conscious of the pattern, right? Until we become conscious of the way we're operating, we will continue to operate off of that pattern, that series of patterns. And until we actually consciously decide to interrupt the current pattern. And so I think that's really interesting because we do a lot of studying of history, and we teach history in the school system, I would say ad nauseum, quite frankly. And we have this, I feel, human desire, this belief that if we teach history to the young people, right? And we were all there. I could very well remember my years of school learning all of this content and being like, how is this ever going to help me? And I'm never going to be able to remember all these facts. Am I going to need to know this stuff when I get older? Because I don't think I'm going to remember all these things, right? And so what we're hoping, what I believe humans are hoping will happen, is that we will learn from our mistakes, right? We teach that to children, right? When they make a, quote, mistake, we tell them, I hope you learn from this mistake. And we think, okay, they're not going to repeat that thing again. But then they do. And we're like, what? Why are you repeating that? And so you see that even as adults, right? We see the patterns being repeated over and over and over again in so many ways. And so we do this as individual humans, like you can look at it globally as just looking at the history of all mankind. But then when you just drill it down and look at your own life, I drill it down and I've been studying my own life again forever. I easily can see lots of different patterns, both amazing and not so amazing, that I repeat over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? So I hope for you, as you're hearing this, you too can look at your life and be like, yeah, totally. That completely makes sense. I repeat patterns all the time, both really good things that I do that make me amazing, right? That make you amazing. And then also really not useful things that you do that you feel very frustrated over. And you're like, why do I keep doing that, right? Whatever it is, you're trying to work less, you're trying to drink less, you're trying to eat less, you're trying to exercise more, you're, trying to develop whatever healthier habit that you're trying to develop, that it's a pattern that you're literally repeating over and over again. And so, it reminds me of the scripture reference that Paul talks about. Why do I keep doing the thing that I don't want to do? What is going on there, right? And so if you think about it from a more integrated experience, we continue to do the thing that we don't want to do until we learn to do it differently. Right? And that's just like a basic way to think about it. And I'm going to keep it relatively basic and short to make it as easy to understand. And for those of you that want to talk about it more in depth, of course, please reach out to me. This is what I do. I help people understand these unconscious ways that they're behaving in life so that you can actually live a different life. Because as long as you're acting out these unconscious patterns, you will continue to create the life that you have right now. And chances are you are probably able to look at your parents and be like, oh, they have the same challenges, right? Maybe not all of them and maybe not exactly. But basically, whatever things you really struggle with, if you look at your parents, you see some similarities. Okay? And again, it's like, just look at some of the easiest ones. Like, what's the main thing you struggle with? And then ask yourself, do one of my parents struggle with that very same thing? And then what's even more amazing, right? Fascinating to look at is, did one of my grandparents struggle with that very same thing? What? They did. Like, they did. Okay. Excuse me. And I say that fairly confidently because I have yet to see a pattern that I couldn't trace back. And when I'm working with people or just having great conversations with people that I couldn't trace back. So the pattern can be traced back. Now it might show up differently, like I said, which is why really working one-on-one, you can actually scale it back and really look at you specifically. But there's a way in which the pattern continues to live. And that's what I think is referred to around the phrasing that I heard in my circles growing up around generational curses. It's, I think, maybe just a little bit more useful for me these days to call it generational patterns. And so you have the capability of interrupting the pattern. But I want you to know this morning, most importantly, I'm just checking over here at my notes, that you are recreating the pattern all the time. It's not just like sometimes. It's not just when you want to, right? I mean, countless number of times I've heard people say like, oh, I've been having this happen and this happen and this happen and this happen. Life really seems to be going well for me. And I'm like, but do you know why that is? No, they don't really know why that is, right? And so the thing is, if you just look at it without the emotion or the excitement of particular moments, we'll say working in your favor. Life is always working in your favor if you choose to look at it that way. The same as life is always against you if you choose to look at it that way. When you just look at it as you're repeating patterns, it just becomes a fact. It's not like emotional, right? And so when you think about it more neutrally, then you realize, oh, well, if that's how life works, then it's happening all the time. So when people say, and depending on what circles of life you live in, when people say something like, I'm really great at manifesting, but then they have a particular area in their life that they're not happy with, I'm like, okay, well, you understand in part, but not in full, or else you wouldn't have that part of your life that you're like, oh, I really don't like that part of my life, and I don't understand why I can't get that part figured out. Nothing wrong with that. Believe me, I don't have it all figured out of all the things that I do that I don't want to be doing, by far. But the thing that I do know now is how it happens. And so it's no longer this great mystery to me, which it had been for many, many years. Even as a professional therapist, it had been a mystery to me why I would do things that I didn't want to do. And equally so, why I wouldn't do other things that I really thought I wanted to do, right? Like traveling, okay? So it's not at all like, ooh, about the traveling. I mean, it's amazing, and traveling is awesome, and going to see places is awesome. But the thing that's the nuance for me is it's been a thing that I've wanted to do for a long time and couldn't seem to get myself to do. Again, you might not struggle, like traveling may just be easy for you, right? You watched your parents and they traveled, or they didn't have any judgments about people that did travel, and so you just go and you travel. But if you didn't grow up that way, or you didn't have that level of freedom within that particular thing, then you're not going to struggle with the same thing that I'm struggling with, we'll say, had experience struggling with. So it's not about the travel is really what I'm getting at here. It's about the essence, which is the thing that you really desire, the thing that you're like, oh, I wish I fill in the blank, or equally so, I wish I wouldn't do this thing anymore, right? And so that's where the heart of it is. And whatever that thing is for you, it is the thing that's keeping you from the moving forward, from the feeling of living free. So most people don't have the awareness that they're literally creating their experience all the time. They have some idea, or they have, some awareness of this, that, or the other of how that kind of works. But when the breakthrough, the like, whoa moments are you're creating your circumstances all the time. So it's a huge topic, and it's taken me a hot minute to come around to. And I have like so much more to learn, which is so exciting, because the reality is my human brain can't contain all there is to know, right? And it's just not even possible. So I am fully aware that there's so much that I've learned, and there's so much more yet to experience and to know. So what I want I think I'm just going to wrap it up here, and I will share some of these other points that I have written down for this morning. And I want to bring it home to two things. One, which is, what patterns are you repeating that you don't want to be repeating? What things are you like, I want to do this and I can't seem to get myself to do it, or I want to stop doing this and I can't get myself to do it? Either way, they're a pattern. What is it that you're struggling with? What conscious awareness do you have about the patterns that you're struggling with that you want to change, that you're like, I really would love to see this be different? Again, not with judgment. And here's the thing I wanted to for sure mention. I had so much judgment. I have had, and certainly not free of all my judgments. Let me just say that up front. And I would say that my life prior to 40 was so riddled with shame about who I was. I didn't know that I was riddled with shame. I knew something wasn't right in my spirit. I knew something wasn't right in my spirit, but I didn't know what it was, right? And that's what I'm getting at here, is this taking off of the mask that you don't know you're wearing. I didn't know I was wearing this mask of shame until I became aware of it. And the only way that I became aware of it was surrendering to a process, surrendering to people around me who've experienced more than me, who know more than me in this area, we'll say, right? Because it's not to say that they knew more than me or that they were better than me. No, because that just falls right under shame. But they have an awareness. They've practiced more of this thing that I refer to as the inner work or the personal development, whatever way you want to look at it. Everybody's got different words for it. But it's really, they're more practiced at getting to know themselves than I was, right? Again, even as a professional therapist who was pretty damn good at her job, I still didn't understand the depths of shame, which still blows my mind. I digress. So my life was really very much riddled with shame. And again, I didn't know it. But once I broke the barrier, once I became aware with the help of others that my life was being dictated by shame, then I was like, wait a minute, hello, wake up time, wake up time. It's basically what happened. And that's when this whole liberated movement started for me, is, whoa, my life has been being dictated by shame. And that process was a journey in and of itself, just to becoming aware that my life was being dictated by shame. And this feeling, and the way that I think about shame, is that I felt bad about who I was. And so the liberation movement for me has been, I feel really good about who I am. I'm no longer actually trying to be perfect. I'm no longer trying to achieve this fake persona, this thing that I was taught, or the thing that I perceived to be taught in childhood, to be without sin, is just the words that I was taught. And now I just recognize, like, oh yeah, that's not actually the goal. The goal is to be 100% okay with who I am, so that I can expand and learn more about how to be an amazing human. Again, simplistic way of looking at it. So, what I want to leave for you is, what is the mask that you don't know you're yet wearing, right? And it's an oxymoron, because on the one hand, you can't know it, and on the other hand, your spirit, the spirit within you, the God within you, the divine presence, essence that you are at your core, does know. It has a sense. And so I'm just calling to that part of you to look at it for your own liberation to happen. What is that that's holding you back the most from stepping forward to living life anew, to living life in that true freedom that every human desires to live in. So the thing that frees you, the thing that instead of focusing on the shame and the ways in which you feel bad about who you are or what you're doing, is my whole mission for the last 4 years, which is to change the focus from viewing yourself over here to coming over to here and viewing yourself in the light, viewing yourself the way that God views you, the way that the divine sees things, right? This is all throughout the scriptures where God, the writers will say of the Bible are talking all about not to see things for as they are, not to see them the way that the world sees them, but to see them the way that God sees them, right? Feel free to swap out any words for God that you want to that allows you to understand and hear what I'm saying to you right now. But it's this awareness that there is this whole other way that you can see yourself. It's the way that you can view yourself right now, literally as you are, making 0 changes to who you are. But simply, instead of looking this way, you turn and you look this way and you choose to see the way that God sees you as amazing, as honored, right? As beautiful. Because that's the choice we have. That is the place, the position that we can choose to view ourselves. Instead of continuing in the ways of the world, wherever you've learned it, from your family, from church, from school, from your soccer team, wherever you feel like you picked up this teaching, that you were bad, that you weren't good, that you can simply turn and decide, physically, literally, you can stand up right now with me, and you can literally turn in a different direction and decide to see yourself anew, to declare who you are. You get to decide. And it is in the decision of deciding, this is who I am. No longer am I the person that says, I don't like me. I don't like the way I am, to, I am a freaking badass. That's your decision. That's the decision that you get to make. Why? Because God lives within you. Regardless of how anyone says that you are, it is really up to you to decide who you are and how you are going to be. So instead of focusing on all the things that are wrong with you, all the things you don't like, instead decide over here who it is you want to be, and then work on being that person at 100%. And it's a journey, right? It's not just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna, no. Like literally as a professional therapist, it's taken me several years to come over here. So it's a journey, and it's literally why people hire me and spend several $1,000s to help them get over here. Because if it were easy, if it only took 12 sessions like insurance would pay for, everyone would be doing it. And that's just not the case. And it took me years to figure that out for myself. Like, I've been going and getting all of this help, and I am still not where I want to be. What? That's crazy. So, it's a shift that is simple. The way that I've described it to you, it's simple, but it can be hard. Like, hard to do. Which is why people hire mentors, to literally help them go from here to here because that journey is here. And it confronts all the senses of who you have ever been, which can be a bit overwhelming at first. A bit overwhelming at first. Okay? Like, I'm going to be real, because I am. That's just my approach. It was very abrasive and very confronting when I first sat down in the very first room that I entered with full surrender to say, I need help. I do not know what I'm doing. I keep trying to do the thing and I can't do it. And I fully surrendered. And it was only then that I was able to really, truly start this journey to actually come over here. And let me tell you, all the resistance inside of me, as strong as you know me to be, as independent as you know me to be, all of that rose up inside of me and was like, what are you doing? You're trying to go from here to here? I don't think so. Right? And so the stronger, the more independent, the more warrior-like you are inside of you, the more, I'm not going to say like the more resistance you will experience, because it's also totally available to you that you could start working with someone and you could go from here to here in one day. That is available, right? Because again, God is inside of us. So anything is possible. And what I know to be true about myself and about everyone else that I've worked with and spoken to is the journey takes a hot minute. And it has quite a bit of resistance to go through. But let me tell you, loves, it is amazing to be over here. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I would go back and repeat and spend all of the thousands of dollars that I have spent to get from here to here. Because now I'm here. Exactly where I know I'm meant to be today, loving my life. Again, it's not that my life is perfect and I have all the things. No, that's a facade of crazy that lots of people try to like promote that no one is experiencing in that way. It's to say that I love being me. And when you love being you, you can look at some of those parts of you that you're like, I don't love that part of me. I'm not crazy about that part of me, right? Like the part of me that still wants to control in moments my husband, I don't like that part of me. Gross. Why do I keep doing that? Right? It's a journey is what I'm really getting at. It's a process and it takes time and it's totally okay because that is what we're here for, is the journey to discovering who we really are and being able to get to a point where you can say, I love being me. Yes, there are things about me I'm going to be working on forever, but I'm going to do it from a place of honor and expanding and surrender that says, I want more. Show me where it is. I want more. There's more amazingness. I want to learn. I'm here and I'm ready. Let's go. All right, you guys, as always, thank you for spending time with me. And feel free, reach out to me. I'm ready to help you. Drop me a link in the comments or just come on over to the Facebook Messenger and say, Sarah, I'm tired of living my life in shame and I am ready to experience the amazing beauty that life has to offer me, whatever the cost. I'm ready to help you. All right, you guys, between now and when I get to see you next, go do that thing your heart most wants to do today. And I'll talk to you soon.